Hey guys, Matt Larosiere here with Firearms Policy Coalition, bringing you another weekly update, just to make sure you have all the latest information on everything affecting your right to keep and bear arms. Without more, let's get into it. To the chagrin of Tom Wolf and other anti-gunners in PA, members of the Pennsylvania House have passed HB 2440, which establishes firearm-centric businesses like gun shops as life-sustaining. So that's pretty reasonable and reflects the general trend. So what could have been the totally reasonable response from gun grabbers? Well, of course, they said that this is going to make the Wild Wild West look like Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. Seriously, adult humans in PA were so upset that they can't just close gun shops willy-nilly that the PA House Dems Twitter account was saying that the bill would do things like make illegal gun sales okay. Of course, this reaction is totally unwarranted, but trust me, you've got to read that thread. Be sure to check out the weekly on our website, fbcnews.org, where you can find it linked in the write-up. This is going to shock you. But now that the California legislature is back, they're making some anti-gun moves. Times like this, I remember the words of Gideon Tucker, who so aptly put that no man's life, liberty, or property are safe while the legislature is in session. And this week, the California Assembly and Senate Public Safety Committees met and exemplified this sentiment when they approved a handful of gun control measures, referring them to the next subcommittee. The measures included AB 2847, a microstamping bill, AB 2362, which jacks up fines for gun dealers, AB 2617, which shores up red flag / gun violence restraining orders, AB 2699, which sets requirements for handgun storage, because I guess Heller is just a distant memory to these people, and SB 914, which imposes still more restrictions on loaning a firearm. You can read more about all these acts on fbcnews.org. We've got a little update there where you can click on links and learn more about each one and take action if you can. This week, the Second Circuit Court of Appeals did something a bit off, concluding that a sentencing enhancement for obliterating or altering a serial number on a firearm applies to any serial number on the firearm. Now, if you have any experience with firearms at all, you'll see the issue here. So, hold on. We've got guns like this that we're all used to, right? There is one part on this gun that is considered the firearm, and that is where we have the serial. You know, on the AR-15, it's the quintessential lower receiver. Then with some guns, often foreign-made ones, we've got serial numbers all over the place. But the only one that really counts, well, the only one that's supposed to count under the Gun Control Act, is the one that's on the frame, or the receiver, since that's what we consider the firearm here. So why does this matter? Well, guns these days are pretty modular. You can swap parts out on modular guns, and you ought to be able to do that without worrying about what's marked on the replacement part. By deciding this way, I fear that the Second Circuit may have opened the door for a lot of unjust prosecutions for firearms offenses that have nothing to do with the purposes of the GCA's serial number provision. I really hope this gets straightened out soon. We're talking about a law designed to discourage the obliteration of serial numbers from the frame, not routine maintenance or part swapping. I can't imagine discarding a redundant serialized component or modifying it, something like the slide, having criminal consequences, but the Second Circuit might disagree. According to recent reports from New Zealand and New York City, both have seen a substantial uptick in shootings and gun-related homicides. This, of course, comes after New Zealand's Prime Minister banned a ton of guns just last year. In New York City, shootings have increased 21% over the last year. So what's driving these increases? Politicians in both places don't seem to know, but they're definitely leaving the door open for more gun legislation. Big surprise. Coverage in the South has been kind of lacking lately, but there's good news coming out of Louisiana, where a set of pro-gun bills are being advanced to the state legislature. Some highlights from the bills include things like loosening restrictions on carry in church, legalizing concealed carry by non-permit holders in emergencies, limiting restrictions that can be put on gun possessions under curfews, and, like we discussed in Pennsylvania, declaring firearm and ammunition manufacturers, distributors, wholesale suppliers, and retailers as essential businesses that can't be shut down just by state of emergency. Last but not least, the ATF has released their latest version of the 4473, which will ship late July and which must be used by all FFLs by November 1st. Now, most of you are probably aware of this, but the 4473 is that form you fill out when you buy a gun from a federally licensed dealer. Now, there are three big changes to the form. First, the gun's make, model, and caliber related information will be the first thing on the form, which might help reduce filing and inventory errors. Second, they've included the words borough and parish next to county, so that you don't accidentally write USA in that section. I wonder what state most of that was coming from. And third, there's now a third option for sex, non-binary. This is a good thing to see after the ATF caused a stir a couple years back when they opined that, despite states issuing sex-neutral identification, that anyone who refused to pick ought be denied. Of course, I wonder why the ATF cares what your sex, or race for that matter, is at all. It isn't terribly significant for identification. Still, with this change in place, that means more people will be able to embrace their constitutional rights going forward, and that's a good thing. Well, that's all I've got for you this week. Thanks for tuning into This Week in Gun Rights. If you'd like to know more, check out fpcnews.org, where you can find this week's edition and information on our legal and legislative efforts. If you think this content would be important to someone you know, well, help us spread the word. Tag them down in the comments. If you want to join the fight with us, go to fpcaction.org and take action. And if you think the work that we're doing is important, you can support us there too. Every little bit makes a huge difference in this long and animated contest for our liberty. As always, keep your eyes on Firearms Policy Coalition, where we're keeping up the fight for all of your rights all the time. I've been Matt Larosiere, and I'll see you real soon.